Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back, Marriage, Money, and Mindset. We are your hosts. I'm Jared.
And I'm Alexis.
And welcome back to another episode of Marriage, Money, and Mindset. We come to you every Monday at 5 p.m. dropping content on those three topics of discussion: marriage, money, and mindset.
If this information is helpful to you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We post content every Monday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yeah, even though we're a little late this time, but we're here, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, guys, so hey, look, we appreciate all the new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. We're getting our subscribers up. We appreciate the new guys that have subscribed. Yeah, man, tell a friend, family member, co-worker what we're doing. If you like what we're doing, make sure you share this content, right? So yeah, man, we're going to keep it moving on episode 55 of our channel. Last week we did episode 54. The title was Let's Talk About Sex. So we got pretty good views off of it. I appreciate the people who have the people who have watched it. We basically just talked about the different phases of sex in within a marriage. You know, you may go through that, honeymoon phase all the way down to that, life-changing phase as you get older, as you age in life. Just some things to kind of consider that pertains to sex in a marriage. So it was pretty cool how we, broke that down.
Yeah.
So today's episode is 55. We're going to be talking about, should you have separate or joint bank accounts in a marriage? Separate or joint bank accounts in a marriage. So that's something that, I've noticed that seems to be a topic of discussion for most married couples. How they allocate, well, not necessarily allocate, but how they operate when it comes to their finances, whether or not they should have joint accounts or separate accounts, or maybe even a hybrid solution of a little bit of both. So that's kind of what we want to get into with today's episode, guys. We want to discuss, the pros, the cons of having separate versus joint. And then also go into, how, like I mentioned a second ago, that hybrid solution, kind of what we got going on right here. We're going to explain when we, get into it on the episode.
Yeah.
But, how do you feel? Have you ever noticed couples, this is something that they deal with? Have you heard other couples discuss this?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I've heard a lot of different scenarios. Like some people, the wife pays the bills, the husband pays like the mortgage or the rent. Or vice versa. A lot of people base it
for certain expenses, and
some people base it off of like who makes more, things like that.
Right.
I've even heard where the husband takes care of all of the expenses, and the wife, her paycheck is just for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of different, unique ways. Again, it's all subjective, guys. We just want to give some insight on a little bit. We're actually gonna touch on what we do. Of course, if that could work for y'all's marriage, cool. Maybe try it, something to discuss. But, we understand every marriage is unique, right? And whatever works for your marriage works for your marriage. But again, we just wanted to shed some light on, this particular topic because it is a topic that,
it's important.
It's important. Some married couples have issues with this type of thing. So we're going to talk about it. So let's get into it. So the decision to have separate or joint bank accounts in a marriage, it depends on your financial habits, goals, and the dynamics of your relationship, right? Both approaches can work well, but each has its pros and cons.
Right.
So what we want to do is get into the joint bank account pros first. So you want to talk about the very first pro, Hershey, of having a joint bank account? We got 4 of them, by the way, guys. So let's talk about the first one.
So the first pro of having the power of a joint account is transparency.
Right.
So being able to have that full transparency with your spouse, so that they know what's in the account, what's going in, what's going out. It can help you build trust and foster communication.
Yeah, I mean, literally, transparency is the operative word. Both parties have this account. They can both see what's in it, what's going out. So it's clear as day. You know what I'm saying? There's no black
secrets.
and white. Yeah. Okay. Then of course it helps building and foster communication, building trust and fostering communication. Literally what Hershey just said, right? So let's talk about the second reason, or the second pro of having a joint bank account, which would be simplifying finances, right? So it's easier to manage shared expenses like the rent or mortgage, bills, groceries, and all funds are in one account.
Right.
So basically, what's coming in, what's going out, both parties can see. A lot of this is redundant, by the way, but we just, again, kind of specifying some of the pros. Go ahead with the third one, baby.
Okay, so the third one is having a shared responsibility. So both of you guys contribute to and manage the account, making the financial planning a joint effort. So everything is done together.
There you go. Yeah, teamwork.
Yeah.
And then number 4 being easier in emergencies. So in cases of illnesses and other emergencies, both parties or partners rather can access the money, which can provide security and convenience. So, you know, if it's a joint account, obviously, if the other one's incapacitated to where they can't get or access the money at the time, well, you have access to it as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just briefly touch on some of these cons. We got the same amount. We actually have 3 cons for y'all. So 3 cons of having a joint bank account. So that loss of financial independence, right? So if one partner spends more than the other, it can lead to feelings of inequality or resentment. So one thing I'll say, you know, going into a marriage, guys, you are going from being independent to now being a partner, right? Yeah. That's the whole point, by the way, you know, from our perspective, right? Yeah. You know, so even though it could be a con to some people that they're losing that financial independence, don't really look at it that way. I mean, it's just one we want to list, but it's not really a con. If anything, it's a pro, but you know, it can be cons. I can see how it could be a con for some people. So talk about the second.
All right, so that second one is risk of conflict.
Yeah.
So if you have different spending habits, like you just mentioned, or your financial priorities are different, it can lead to disagreements.
Yeah, I mean, you know, kind of like what we demonstrated at the very beginning of this topic was your habits. You know, right. If you have poor habits and you bring that into the marriage, the finances of the marriage, it could be a con. You know, yeah. You got to get a hold on that. And we're going to touch on how you can still have some of those, if it's not necessarily poor habits, but just habits outside of the joint account, right?
Yeah, it's important to talk about before you get married what your spending habits are. Yeah. You'll also pick up on who's a little bit more responsible in the area of finances. So like in our marriage, you primarily deal with the finances. Right. We both have access to it, but you primarily take that role.
Yeah. And then a third con with a joint account, it could be complicated if divorce or separation occurs, which we don't promote, but we understand it happens. So, but in the unfortunate case of separation, joint accounts can make splitting assets a little bit more challenging because now we got to figure out who's entitled to what. Bless you. So that's a few of the cons of having joint bank accounts, guys. So let's talk about some pros real fast to having separate bank accounts, right? So we got 3 of them. So talk about the first one.
All right. So the pros. Let me see.
It's right here. This first pro is financial independence.
All right. So pretty much the opposite of what we already said, but financial independence. So each partner maintains and controls their own money, which can foster independence and reduce conflicts over spending. Right.
So if you have your own individual account, guys, obviously you control that account, so you do have your independence, right? But again, like back to what we mentioned when we're talking about expenses, that's out of y'all collective household. That's where the challenge could potentially arise.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, that could be a pro if you have an individual account as a married couple. So another pro is fewer disagreements over purchases. So by keeping personal spending separate, you avoid arguments about how each person is spending money. So that could be a pro with an individual account. Kind of like we said before, you know, there are some expenses that are responsible the way we look at it. For both parties. However, you do want to keep some personal spending separate outside of the joint account, right? The third one, let's talk about it.
All right, so that last one is it makes it easier for differing financial styles. So if one spouse is more of a spender and the other one is a saver, having separate accounts allows for each person to manage their own money in a way that works best for them. Right.
So that's the pros of individuals. I'm gonna just scroll through these last 3 because I want to get to this. So real quick, guys. So let's just talk about some cons. We've got 3 cons for separate joint account or individual accounts. If you're married, so it's less transparency, which means it can be harder to track the shared expenses and maintain open communication. Right. The potential imbalance being number 2. If one partner earns significantly more than the other, it could create a sense of inequality, especially when handling the shared expenses, right?
And the last but not least, it can complicate your bill splitting. So it may require more coordination to pay joint expenses like the bills or the mortgage payments from 2 separate accounts. So having one account, it potentially can make it a little bit easier.
Exactly. Okay, guys, so what we want to talk about next is this hybrid approach, right? Where you have a combination of the joint and the individual accounts, right? Because we do understand, like I said, before y'all became partners, obviously y'all both should have had at least an individual account already set up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And your own expenses.
And your own expenses, right? So check it out, guys. So this is the approach that we think, as well, this is the approach that we take as a married couple. And we just want to share it with y'all. Actually, this is literally how we operate, right? Okay, so check it out. So we both have a joint account, right? But we also have our individual accounts as well. Mm-hmm. So the credit union that we use, we basically have all money. What this means is all money in, right? So all the earned income that we earn,
right?
The money that I earn, the money that she earns, it all literally goes into this one account. That's what all money in represents, right? Mm-hmm. And the extra job income I earn, 9 to 5 income, whatever, same with her, overtime, whatever. But now we also have business income as well. Now that's a joint account that's not going, we keep our business and our individual separate, but it's still the same philosophy, guys, right? Okay, so check it out. So all the money that we both earn goes into this joint account. Now, how do we take care of the money from there? Well, the next thing we do is we cater to our joint expenses. Exactly. It's a joint account, right? So, of course, the first thing we do is invest, right? Now, as far as the allocations go for all these expenses, guys, we've done an episode on this marriage. What is it called? Managing finances in a marriage. I believe it's episode 3. So if you want to know exactly how much you should be allocating to these expenses, go back and check that episode out, right? Yeah. So let's get back to this episode because we're not going to go into that on this particular episode. So the first thing you want to do is invest out of your all money in, right? So allocate for investing. Next allocation, tithing and savings. The next allocation, of course, your housing and utilities. Next allocation is for like miscellaneous items like your cell phone, your cable bill, et cetera, subscription-based things. Yeah. Then, of course, food and groceries. And then, of course, now we have discretionary left over, right? So what do we do with discretionary money from our income? Well, that's where we take the discretionary and put it into each one of our individual accounts, guys. Mm-hmm. So now we've already taken care of our expenses that are joint. We've taken care of investing. And that's not up here as number 1 by mistake, guys. That's what everybody, just real quick off topic, this should always be your first expense. Investing in yourself, right? Pay yourself first, right? I'm sure y'all heard the term. That's not by mistake. Mm-hmm. So once all of these things, like I said, have been catered to joint, now we have the income that we want to allocate for discretionary spending. So of course now, again, back to being subjective, whatever your spouse needs, whatever I need, same thing. Like, let's talk about what people like may spend their money on individually. Let's just talk about that first. So, okay.
Some things that I may spend money on monthly is like getting my nails done, if I want to touch up my hair, spending money on food, like fast food, restaurants, whatever, like and then gas. Yeah. Right. If I'm ordering lunch at work, right, or putting gas in my car, things like that.
Yeah, that wouldn't come out of our joint. You see what I'm saying, guys? Because these are individual expenses for her, right? So it like to have it coming out of this, and then not to mention, kind of back to what we mentioned earlier, a pro of having an independent account or an individual account kind of gives you back to that financial independence. This is just for her to be responsible managing, not having both of us having to manage it here. Mm-hmm. Whatever you need is here. You just manage that. Same thing for me, guys. So the husband account separate from the wife individual account. We use it for if you got hobbies, you go fishing. If you got hair, you get your haircuts. You got food, gas for lunch. Food for lunch, things of that nature, right? Y'all kind of get the idea now. Yeah. But it basically,
in essence, it's 3 accounts. It's a joint account, and then we each have our own individual accounts. And one thing that we left out here, in this joint account is like date night. So whenever we do decide to take a date night, we take it out of our joint.
Well, that kind of goes back to the miscellaneous.
Right.
Yeah, like if it's something that we're going to basically think about it from this perspective. If some of y'all doing collectively together, it's a joint expense.
Right.
So a trip, for instance, let's say we want to add a trip to our expense column. Well, that would go into the miscellaneous because it's discretionary, or it's even discretionary. It could go into discretionary as a joint venture. So we would just basically, it would come out of this account. It wouldn't come out of mine. It would come out of hers. It would come out of this account.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
But for instance, if his birthday is coming up and I want to get him a gift, I'm going to spend it out of my discretionary because I don't necessarily want him to see how much I'm spending or what I'm like, which store I'm going to, things like that. It's more of a surprise.
Usually whenever we do discretionary, by the way, guys, like she kind of basically tallies up what she thinks she's going to need for that month. Same thing with me. Like I think I'm going to need X amount for the month for my discretionary items. She could say the same. I think I'm going to need X amount for my discretionary items. Then that's what's actually sent to her account. Same thing with me. You know, but the main thing is this. I want to stress on that. Like we understand our journey, what we're doing. We make sure we allocate what we said we're gonna set to allocate here. And then of course everything else gets handled. If you allocate accordingly, you're gonna have discretionary left over. You should. You know. And then again, like that's subjective though. Like every month could be different there. You know, it just depends, right?
Yeah.
So okay, guys. So what approach is best, right? I would say, you know, obviously communication is key, right? So whatever approach you choose, open communication, it is essential. So you want to discuss expectations, contributions, and final goals regularly, right? You know, just know that there's no wrong way to do this. Well, I don't know. Could it be a wrong way to do this? Let's talk about it.
Okay. Well, some words that were a little triggering in the beginning of our notes was individual, separate.
Yeah.
Like getting into a marriage, those are not words that you want to foster in your marriage. So everything should be a joint effort.
Right. And at the end of the day, guys, I'm going to say another thing. I mean, obviously, somebody in the marriage is potentially going to make more than the other. It's very rare where both couples make the exact amount of income. Right. But here's the thing, guys. We in this together. That's irrelevant, by the way. Whoever makes more, at least for us, we look at it like, okay, what's coming in to cover the goals for both of us, right? Because, again, this is a team effort, right? When you get married, you're not a team. You know what I'm saying? You can do it by yourself, you know, but my thing is, like the way I look at it is, what good is it to be successful and to have nobody to share it with?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And then another cool part about it, because I'm speaking from our experience, there's like where we are today in comparison to where we were when we met, there's been growth. And this is just cool to see our trajectory together, things that we're accomplishing together, right? Because could I have done it by myself? Absolutely. Could she have done it by herself? Absolutely. But this is something, the journey that we get to share, though. We get to share the journey together. And it's just, you know, it's positive for our marriage because we see, you know, we setting goals and we're accomplishing, you know, everything that we're shooting out to do, you know. It's just like, again, guys, I think it can string your marriage. I say all that to say, I think it can string your marriage when you're doing it as a unit together. Will it feel a little uncomfortable in the beginning? It might. But I went in it with the mindset of knowing like, okay, well, I'm an open book. There's nothing I'm hiding when we get married. This is everything I have going on. There's no surprises coming your way later in the marriage, because that's another problem I think some marriages have. We ain't talking about it in this episode really, but you know, they get married and there were some things that they hid, you know, whether it be debt, you know, a credit score, whatever the case may be, something that maybe prevents you from being able to accelerate financially in your marriage because they wasn't an open book and sharing that with you. So that's another conversation to have pertaining to finances with your significant other before you get married as well. Yeah. You know, any comments on that?
I mean, that just goes back to communication and why I think it's very important to be transparent before you get married, because you have to give that other person a fair chance to say like, yes, I want in, or we got to work on some things before.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna mention as well. Like if there's some things going on that can be worked on, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Maybe their credit score isn't the best. You know, maybe their financial habits, you know, the way they do their income and expenses isn't the best. Whatever the case may be, that's the whole point, guys, is becoming partners so y'all can both work on these things and sharpen each other's iron and be better with y'all's finances and grow your investment strategy. Grow your investment buckets. Yeah, man. I mean, it's just the whole point. Like, it's just helping accelerate goals.
Yeah.
You should be accelerating in life when you become one with your partner, guys, not the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then another thing I was going to touch on real quick is a con. Like, we kind of touched on it already in the notes, but the couples that are out there doing like, okay, you got the water bill, I got the electric bill, I get the mortgage, you get the groceries. I don't know how that strategy works, man, honestly. Like, it's just not one that I see being like really fair, to be honest, because you're both utilizing these expenses. Like, some of those things we just, like I said, a joint expense, y'all are both utilizing. Like, we both live here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just pay it, or you're not going to just pay it. We both paying it. But that's the thing. We don't even look at it like who's paying it.
Because
like, literally, which dollar is being allocated to that. Was it the dollar I earned or the dollar you earned?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, how silly does that sound, man?
Right.
It's all money in.
Yeah.
That's the point, guys. All money in one bucket, and you're literally just deploying the money where it needs to go out of this bucket. If you want to do your own individual spending, take it out this bucket and move it over though.
Do you think that some people do that because they're still practicing as if they were single? For example, like, if I have a house before I met you, my name is only on this house, so I'm going to continue paying the mortgage.
That could be an example. I think people. That's why I say, guys, look.
How would that work in that scenario?
Oh, how would it work?
Yeah. Like, what would you recommend?
If it's your home and I'm moving in and you're the only one that's going to keep paying the mortgage.
Yeah, my name's only on the house.
Then I would say that we're not doing this. That model is, it could work, maybe. However, I feel like it's going to affect the goals. Back to the very beginning of what we mentioned. It could potentially affect the goals because like now we're back to what I just mentioned, like whose dollar is paying for what.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Right.
It's really dumb to me, man. Honestly, it's hard for me to even really like wrap my head around that concept. We never went into it like that. Like we laid this out. And by the way, guys, this is something we discussed before we got married. Like we talked about in the dating phase. Like, okay, how do you see finances in a marriage? We talked about it. And then this is something that we both like literally sat down and kind of like, that was literally like the same concept. We both kind of had the same concept. This was something we had in common, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think all income should be in one account. And then whatever we need for, our discretionary spending, that's what we put in our individual accounts. It's fair. You see what I'm saying? So it works too. It's been working this whole almost 7 years for us. So hey. Just saying, guys, it's something you could potentially try in your marriage. If y'all are, maybe questioning how y'all going to operate, maybe try this. Just give it a shot at least. If you're not doing this model, maybe just try it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work for you, no problem. Figure something out that works. If it's not a hybrid solution like this, that's okay. We just wanted to, again, that's what this whole point of this channel is to, help marriages. Be resourceful. Help y'all with y'all's money and y'all's mindset of y'all's marriage, right? Or marriage, money, and mindset, same thing. In that order, right?
Yeah.
I
have a quick question before we wrap it up. So whenever we were first dating, is there things that, in your opinion, for either one of us that we needed to tighten up on as far as finances?
Well, again, back to when you're dating, being an open book, literally one thing I think we did this. We actually opened up both of our individual accounts and just kind of skim through them just to see
the habits,
how that that because it tells a story, by the way. Opening up your account, your bank account or checking account, your app, and just scroll through it. Look at the last 12 months if it lets you go that far back. Just scroll through it, and it tells a story. How much you're eating out, how much money you're spending on entertainment, gas, whatever, bad habits, they're all in there.
If your account's going
subscriptions, overdraft, whatever, it tells that whole story, right? And share that with your significant other. Like, let's check it out, pull up y'all's bank account, swap phones, and y'all just sit there and kind of look at what's going on, right? You want to do that with your debts too, by the way. You want to share whatever your balances are. You know, if you have outstanding credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever kind of debt, write it all down. Show them the liabilities. Like, hey, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Also show them the assets. You know, add up all your assets. If you own, you know, real estate investments, stocks, retirement accounts, crypto, a business, whatever. Put it all on paper. Let's look at it. Because look, you want to know what you can do and what they can do. And again, somebody's gonna be doing better than the other guys. That's the irrelevant. But it's really irrelevant because y'all want to be a team. That's the point. So that's my 2 cents on it, man. So yeah, that would be y'all's homework. You know, that literally that last piece I just mentioned. Write down your assets, write down your liabilities, and then pull up y'all's bank accounts and share it with each other. And you know, y'all talk about it. You know, give y'all something to discuss. So yeah, man. But anyway, that's gonna be today's episode, guys. Any other comments or questions you got? I mean, questions from me or comments for the viewers?
No, that's all. That's all I have.
Well, hey, man, look, we appreciate y'all. Excuse me. We appreciate y'all tuning in this week. So hey, if you like this episode, please comment, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share with a friend, family, or coworker. And y'all come back next week. We're gonna be dropping some more content. So, but until next week, y'all take care and have a great week.
Peace.